Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So I wanted to make a video talking about a pretty hot take that Rusty Buckets had on Twitter today. And that was that Larry Bird is not an all-time great shooter because of his career playoff numbers when shooting from three. In case you guys don't know, Larry Bird, career-wise from three in the playoffs, shot about 1.5 three-pointers a game and shot 32% from three. Now, Jacob has come out on Twitter and said that this is a hill he wants to die on, and that he does not care how much context you apply, that he does not believe Larry Bird is an all-time great shooter, not even top five. And for me, I was like, nah, sorry, I can't fly with that. We're talking about a guy who scored 47 points playing left-handed with 14 rebounds and 11 assists and shot 61% from the field and 100% from three in that game. So, yeah, and that was February 14th, 1986, to be exact. So I want to talk about this because anytime you get into these GOAT conversations when it comes to greatest basketball player of all time, greatest defensive player of all time, any sport, greatest quarterbacks of all time, greatest, I don't know, baseball players of all time, context matters. Regardless of if you want to fucking acknowledge it or not, context matters, okay? And for my subscribers, if you follow Rusty on Twitter, I felt like you guys deserve some context because these numbers you have to apply context to, because honestly, you can't say things like Stephen Curry is the greatest shooter of all time and not apply context to it or give a reason why, you know, because if we were going around here not applying context to shit, we'd have people running around here saying Bob Cousy was a better point guard than Chris Paul. And yeah, even though maybe Mad Dog thinks that, you know, maybe he's the only guy that thinks that. But most people would say you have a fucking screw loose if you came out and said Chris Paul was a worse point guard than Bob Cousy. Because Bob Cousy, yes, while he was maybe the greatest point guard of his era that he played in, statistically, he still shot pretty fucking horrible. I mean, he played half his career with Bill Russell. Okay, so we can respect Bob Cousy's era, we can respect Bob Cousy, but are we putting him ahead of Chris Paul? No. Why? Because context. Okay? I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the fucking day. Regardless of if you like it or not, that's what it comes down to. So, I wanted to go over Larry Bird's career numbers from three and talk about them, right? So, I'm going to apply context to this because I think it's incredibly important when talking about Larry Bird or greatest shooters of all time, because to me, Larry Bird is number 2 on the list or number 3. He's in the top 3 easily for me. So let's go ahead and apply some context. So in Larry Bird's rookie year, 1979 to 1980, he made the playoffs. He played 9 games, but shot 26% from three. This is the first thing that we go to here. Why 26%? This was literally the first year the NBA decided to include the three-point shot. Teams were experimenting with it, seeing if it's something that they wanted to use or not. Larry Bird coming out of college, being the shooter that he was, they were allowing Larry Bird to shoot almost 2 3-pointers a game in the playoffs. It was 1.7. And he wasn't hitting them. 26% from three. So they decided, you know what? 3-pointers are not for us. If he can't hit them, nobody else can, right? Because, I mean, Larry Bird, even in college, was regarded as, like, probably the greatest shooter in not only in the sport, but, like, in the fucking world at the time. Larry Bird was, like, was like basketball, like white Jesus, okay? Not white Jesus, but, like, the great white hope is what they were calling him. You know what I'm saying? So, all I'm saying is, that first year where he shot 26% from three was literally the first year they decided to implement the three-point shot. So that's why I'm like, I give him a pass for that because, like, you know, I don't even think he even knew there was going to be a three-point line when he entered the NBA. So there's that. From the ages of 24 to 27, which is 4 years in the NBA, in the playoffs, Larry Bird took less than 1 3-pointer a game. Okay? Regardless of how many games he played, the dude took less than 1 3-pointer a game. So, to see statistics for those 4 years of 37%, 16%, 25%, and 41%, those numbers are not concrete enough to make a strong argument for, right? Like, even if I was trying to make a positive argument for Larry Bird, people would look at me and go, well, he took less than 1 3 a game. Like, you either got it going for that 1 3-point shot or you don't. That 1 3-point shot is either contested or it's not. So for me, I from the ages of 24 to 27 for Larry Bird in the playoffs, I'm like, okay, I guess if we're being generous, we'll give them to you. But if I'm a betting man, like, I'm not taking that as my observation or my stone concrete argument for why Larry Bird was a good or a bad shooter. Just saying. So that's that. In 84-85, Larry Bird finally becomes a starter in the playoffs for the Boston Celtics. He played 20 games, started all 20 games, and still took less than 1.5 threes a game. It was like 1.3, okay? And shot 28% from three. Still not very good, but, it was starting to come around a little bit. So we can talk about let's see, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first 5 playoff years for Larry Bird, there's context that can be applied to all of them that would be like, okay, like, this isn't really a justifiable argument for saying he's not one of the greatest shooters of all time, or even a justifiable argument for saying he is one of the greatest shooters of all time. So there's that. It isn't until 1984, 1985 that we start to get the picture. You know what I'm saying? And even that, from 84, 85 up until 87, 88, it's 3 seasons, okay? 85, 86 was the best one at 41% from 3-on-3 attempts per game in the playoffs. 86, 87, Larry Bird took 1.8 threes a game and shot 34% from 3. The year after that, in 87, 88, he shot basically 2 3-pointers a game at 1.9, shot 37% from 3. Now, you will notice that there is no 1988-1989 playoff series here for Larry Bird at the age of 32. It is because he had surgery on 2 bone spurs in his heels and simply didn't play. Now, when this happened, Larry Bird not only lost a step quickness-wise, he wasn't a very quick player to start with, but you could tell, like, he had lost a step. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't the same player that he once was, and, like, the movement wasn't as fluent. You know what I'm saying? And in the 89-90 series in the playoffs, not only was Larry Bird visibly not the same player, not the same speed, he just wasn't the same player as he was in 1987, 1988. He was still trying to backpack this team. Dennis Johnson had been taken out of the lineup. They called up Brian Shaw from Italy to come play point guard for them. I mean, Larry Bird was not only playing hero ball in the 89-90 series of the playoffs, but he was doing it injured. So 26% from 3, I'm like, okay, like, we can take that one if you want, even though it was only 5 games, okay? We'll take that one. But from 34 to 35, from the 90 to 91 season and 91-92 years, those are the back injury years in the playoffs. From 90 to 91, this was the start of the back injuries for Larry Bird, and he played like absolute shit. This was the year he had back surgery, or the back, not wasn't the year he had back surgery, it was the years the back issues started. And he shot like shit in the playoffs. Like, visibly, you can find articles from 90 to 91 on Larry Bird saying that he didn't even look good. Like, they put him out on the floor, and he shot 40% from the field through 10 games and 14% from 3 those 10 games, okay? Like, the only thing he was capable of doing was shooting fucking free throws. And so you could say in 90-91, he was injured. 91-92 was the season he had back surgery. He played 4 games in the playoffs, started for 2 of them. Took 1.3 3-pointers a game, didn't make a single fucking one, shot 50% from the field on 11.3 points per game. And then he retired that year, okay? He didn't even play, he played 45 games in his last year. So, honestly, man, I get it. You know, his numbers may not look sexy on paper, but the problem with Larry Bird's playoff shooting numbers from 3 is that there's either not enough concrete numbers there. I mean, like, if a guy takes less than 1 3-pointer a game, how are you going to say that those numbers are sufficient enough to label him as good or bad? And then for the last 3 years of his playoff career years or playoff career, you could say he was injured. I mean, like, in 89-90, he had the bone spurs issue, and then from 1990 to 92, it was all back problems. So, I mean, half of this, it's like the numbers aren't concrete enough, and the other half of it, it's like he was fucking injured. So, I don't know, man. Like, I get it. I understand people look at numbers and think numbers tell the whole story, but in this specific case of Larry Bird, they really don't. You know, I'm not trying to be a biased Larry Bird fan by any means, but like, if we're really gonna do this and not apply context to the situation, we could say Javon Carter is a better shooter all time than Larry Bird, and I don't think anybody's saying that, because if we're going by career playoff numbers, 3-point shooting wise, Javon Carter is a better player. So, you know, I'm just going to say this, man. I think Larry Bird's top 3 all time. There's going to be people who maybe disagree with that. That's fine. But to me, Larry Bird is one of the greatest shooters of all time. If I needed a guy to shoot a shot with my life on the line, like, you know, guillotine above my head, if he misses the shot, chops my fucking head off, I would choose Larry Bird to shoot that fucking shot. Okay? I would choose Larry Bird, Klay Thompson, or Steph Curry. Those are my guys. Okay? I mean, you could throw Reggie Miller in there or even Ray Allen, but if I have to pick a guy for my money, I'm picking Larry Bird. Okay? Just from the stories I've heard and even on YouTube, like look up Larry Bird, like other players talk about Larry Bird. So like for me, it's like, yeah, we can apply context to this as well. Like you could say that if Larry Bird for the I don't know, from his second year till his fifth year in the playoffs, if he was allowed to take like 3-pointers a game, that you could make an argument that maybe he would have shot 36 to 40% from 3. That's a legitimate argument to be made. So I don't know, man. You know what? I understand that people take numbers a little too literal, but that's pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thought on it. That's my take, and this is context being applied to that, because I think Larry Bird is one of the greatest shooters of all time, and I think people who don't think that either haven't done any research on him or are taking the numbers for face value and not applying context. And in these GOAT conversations, you need to apply context, bro. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and I'm out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.